Okay, welcome back. This will be episode 2 of our show. If you weren't here last time, we discussed the drafts, what we thought might happen. We were right about some stuff, not right about some other stuff, right?
Yeah, I think the 1 and 2 obviously we got correct.
Yeah, big
And then
props
Strom
to
Marner,
us for that.
Hannafin fell to 5 to Carolina. We thought if that happened, they would trade down. They
Carolina
didn't.
with the steal at 5. Yeah, or either the steal or the trade down. I mean, I don't see how you pass up drafting that guy 5. I mean, a trade down, depending on who's doing it, like if you don't have to drop too far, like if it were us doing it, so they drop to 7 and get Provorov, maybe they could pallet that, but, the price would probably be too much for us to do.
Yeah, I'm sure teams called about it, but Carolina probably said, "How can we turn down this guy?" So.
Yeah, tough to do. So, like I said, we were right about some things. Some things went surprisingly, such as New Jersey picking 6th. Like, we both didn't think that would happen.
Did
They
not
took
think
Zach
at all.
in there, which, I mean, more power to him if that's their guy. I would just assume that he would have been there at 8, and then Columbus could have gotten Provorov from under our nose. Maybe Columbus just didn't want to pay because they took Werenski right away. So I would have been disappointed if we had to take Werenski.
Yeah, so would I have.
Maybe they liked him enough to not care about wanting to trade up and hop over us. The thing I don't understand, really, I mean, okay, sure, so they want to take Werenski, fine, they like him, but you also get to deny us Provorov. I mean, that has to mean something. Maybe I'm overblowing the way GMs want to screw each other over, especially
Sure.
with their division rivals. If I were Columbus and the price were, a first this year, maybe next year, and Reichel, who I've heard is on the block for them anyway.
That's
He's
kind of
prospect
high
wise.
for, I think, just 2 spots, though.
It is, but I don't have to. I mean, we're all pretty ecstatic that the Flyers drafted Provorov.
Sure. I mean, but maybe on their board they had, in terms of defenseman prospects, Hannafin far and away number 1, and then maybe they were a little iffy on Provorov or Werenski, whoever it may be. If they don't get Hannafin, they're fine with either. I assume that's what they would do because they, like you said, they immediately took him. Didn't consider trading down a couple spots because he could have been there a couple of spots later.
There's another guy I feel like would have been there, but he was the last top. There were 3 top consensus defensemen, and Columbus needed a defenseman. I would be shocked if they didn't prefer Provorov. I mean,
I'm sure they did, but I think
cost prohibitive probably. Right?
yeah, exactly.
Yep. So yeah, I guess we're just going to mainly here. We're just going to discuss the Flyers picks. Lots of teams did some interesting things.
Particularly Boston.
We could start with Boston. Let's get it out of the way. They went out. They are the first team to ever have 3 consecutive firsts. I saw that on the draft coverage. Well, maybe not ever. It's since the 70s or something. That never happened. And they then proceeded to go off the board with all 3 picks. Well, they went off of what is considered to be the board with all 3 picks. To be fair, who knows? They could make.
It could have been their
stupid.
board. I mean, but
it could be that all those picks are great. Who can say? We all like to laugh at the Bruins and act like they fucked up, but we are not in any position to pass judgment. I mean, all any of us know is what we read. So, yeah, looks like they fucked up. Maybe they didn't. We're not going to know for a few years. So, that's a thing. They also traded Lucic to the Kings. They retained some salary there. And they
traded away Dougie Hamilton
Yes.
For some picks.
Yeah, they got one of those 3 firsts, and then, 2 seconds this year or next?
I think one this year and one next, if I remember correctly.
I have no recollection. Whatever it is, that's not a lot for that guy. We've heard that there were better offers on the table, but Boston probably wanted them out of the conference if they were going to trade him. It's one of those things. That's one thing I've heard a lot of GMs would hate to trade, locally, as you would call it. They don't want to let a good guy
trade a
walk
young budding
and then-
superstar to
right.
a rival
Yeah,
team,
yeah,
something
he
that they're going to
he
face.
So he can play it 4 times a
Yeah.
year and knock you out of the playoffs and whatever. Everybody plays hard against their old team, so They
And I get the move from their perspective. I mean, they offered him a contract. I think what was it, 6 years, 5.5 for each year. I guess he wanted more.
Yeah, I mean, market would dictate that he gets more than that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that guy. I don't think he's as good as everyone seems to think he is. I'm not so high.
It's
on
just
him.
young
He's got
defenseman
good
putting up a
numbers.
ton of points for multiple years. I mean, playing alongside Chari, he's going to have great like possession stats, advanced stats. But I mean, we'll see. We're going to see who he actually is.
Yeah, I mean, on Calgary, he
Well, to be fair, their defense is also pretty stacked now. They're top four.
Yeah,
Whether they put him alongside Giordano or if they keep that TJ Brody and Giordano pairing, which was so good last year,
I mean,
and then playing him on the second.
If Hamilton was so good next to Chara, at the very least, you know, you put him next to Giordano now, and how much of a drop off could that be? I mean, Giordano is probably currently already better than Chara. I mean, Chara's
Yeah, I would think that's true.
If Hamilton is just a passenger type guy, then you've got a good guy for him to ride with. So they're probably going to be all right.
Yeah, I mean, Giordano they have to sign next year, but Brody they should have locked up for a couple of years. He's young too. Dougie Hamilton, we'll see the contract that they end up signing him to, but he's only 22. They should be pretty set on defense for a little while. At least their top two pairings.
Yeah, they got pretty good pretty quick. Calgary. They were a couple of years ago. They were about as bad as Edmonton.
Yeah, they're pretty solid surprise last
year.
year.
Monahan, Gaudreau, Giordano is suddenly a Norris caliber defenseman, making some moves. They have Hiller. Ramo might be out the door for them, but.
And Hiller wasn't spectacular last year, but he was at least serviceable. I'm sure they would love to upgrade that spot, but didn't happen this year.
Yeah, tough to do. I mean, I don't know who's left, really. There were a lot of goalie trades, right? Well, I guess we can...
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Get to that soon. Off the top of my head, Enroth is left. I doubt Dallas is going to keep him because they have...
they just picked up
got
Niemi's rights, right? Who they're going to end up signing. So, yeah, I don't see Enroth staying with them, but...
Maybe here as a backup. It depends on what he wants. I mean, if he's fine being a backup after all these years of starting for a terrible team, then great. I'll take him for a low deal, but I think he'll want to be a 1B somewhere at worst, which is not happening in Philly.
No, definitely not. I'm sure there's some spot for him, but going back to the draft itself, let's get into the Flyers picks. So Provorov, we all know about.
Yep, couldn't be happier with the way that went down. I mean, I was nervous the whole time from 5 on. I was like on the edge of my seat. I'm sitting there like, all right.
Butthole so clenched.
Yeah, it really was. Like, okay, wow, Hannafin's there. Do we trade up to 5? Okay, we didn't do that. Right,
no, as soon as Hannafin got picked, I texted you, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god.
Yeah, I figured that's what that was about.
Yeah, I swore, I was so certain the Devils were going to trade down and someone was going to come up and scoop Provorov, but didn't happen. Fell to us at 7, and...
Maybe not for lack of trying. Maybe they tried to deal the pick, but they couldn't.
I'm sure there are calls for every pick, but but it fell to us, and now he's potentially the best prospect in our system already.
I still lean towards Sanheim. I'm a little biased. I like Sanheim a lot, but he's definitely second best at worst, which is weird sentence structure, but you know what I mean. He's the only thing he doesn't have is size. He's only 6 foot tall. Sanheim's bigger. Sanheim is a little bit better of a skater, from what I understand, but Provorov is a little bit more complete. He's more of an all-around defenseman with a lot of offensive upside, whereas Sanheim is more along the lines
on the offense.
More along the lines of an offensive defenseman. But
I mean, maybe they end up being a great pairing together.
Yeah, can you imagine that? That pairing? That would have to be a first pairing, and then dare I even dream of Moran?
A Ghost Moran.
Second. And then
McDonald and someone.
Son of a bitch.
No, stuck with him for another 6 years.
I think it's 5. Let's not.
Let's
not make it worse.
Nah, they'll re-sign him to another 1 year deal after that's up.
Yeah, we'll extend him for no reason whatsoever.
And then after Provorov got picked, next couple picks.
Yeah, Blue Jackets went Werenski.
Sharks went Timo Meier.
Timo Meier, right.
And then Colorado
Boston.
picked Rantanen, got another solid forward prospect to add to their
Colorado's
huge core of forwards.
Is unreal. I mean, McKinnon and Duchesne as a 1-2 centered tandem is nuts to me. Those are two incredibly skilled players.
Imagine if they still kept Ryan O'Reilly too.
Yeah,
They traded away during the draft, but
yeah, they got rid of him. Yeah, Buffalo again goes back to what we were saying. Buffalo is in good shape. They have so many good centers and forwards in general.
Yeah, they should make a quick turnaround actually. Playoffs within 2 years, I think, is definitely a possibility. They just need solid goaltending, pretty much. I mean, they've got a couple solid defensemen, including Bogosian, who they picked up last year. Their forwards, they have obviously Eichel, who they just picked, Ryan O'Reilly. They still have Jurgensen's, Tyler Ennis, Evander Kane on the left wing, Matt Molson. I think they've got some good pieces there.
They just traded away Zadorov in that on draft day, but they still have Ristolainen, so they've got help coming on defense. I mean, actually, he played for them last year, maybe not 82 games, but a good portion of it. So I wouldn't even say it's help coming. It's just they're on their way. You know, I've been saying for years now that if they're not contending for a cup within 3 years, 4 years, and now, then they should just pack it in. Like, I mean, this is just the last few drafts they've had, because of all the tanking they've done, they've been phenomenal. And now the cherry on top is Jack Eichel, and they just traded for Ryan O'Reilly, who's a really solid player. Assuming they didn't trade him, to not extend him. So while he's only signed this upcoming year, currently,
and they've got the space for him to extend.
Space.
I think his cap is at $6 million right now.
Right.
He wants obviously more than that for his next deal, which Colorado wasn't going to pay, but Buffalo might. Maybe they give him $7 million. Who knows? We'll see how he plays for them this year, I guess.
Yeah. But anyway, right. So, you know, the picks in between our 2 first-rounders were. The only thing I would say is interesting is, like we already talked about, with
Boston
going off the board.
Yeah.
Thing.
I can't believe Barzal and Kyle Connor fell to 16 and 17.
Right. Barzal was dropping. We were sort of texting back and forth, wondering, like, do we make a move for this guy? I thought he was a top 12 pick, but where did he go? 16.
Yeah, he went 16 to the Islanders.
Yeah, they traded up to get him. Exactly, that's what happened. So that when we weren't the team that did it, I was a little disappointed. I thought getting him at 16 is great value. We'll see if I'm right. The Islanders, another team that's on the
ton of young players.
Yeah,
great young players. Yeah, no, they should be contending for years to come. Then we ended up trading up actually for 24 and picked Travis Konechny, who I didn't know much about going into the draft. To be honest, I really didn't read anything on him, watch anything on him until they traded up, picked him. Didn't know who he was. I since read a lot about him, watched a bunch of videos posted to our Flyers and just things that I found on Google. And I'm very happy with the pick. I mean, he's a little on the smaller side, but as you can see, I mean, in the NHL, looking at Tyler Johnson, Johnny Gaudreau, there are
the days
good
of that
smaller players.
Meaning that you can't play are over. Lots of players are undersized and they make it work. And the thing I keep hearing about him is that he's a big time, effort guy. So that's what you need. That's what you need when you're undersized. You can't. It's not going to work for you if you're.
If you're
trying to find the words here, it's not going to work. A bigger guy can get by on talent alone, but if you're undersized, you really got to. And you see it in Tyler Johnson's game.
Yeah,
he's
works very hard.
Yeah, constantly max effort. So hopefully that's what kind of guy he turns out to be in the NHL. I don't know.
Everything
weird.
I
don't know if I don't think I imagined this. Maybe you can tell me I'm right, and if anyone's listening. The immediate reaction to us drafting him, everyone was hating on his speed. Do you remember that? The coverage of the draft, everyone was like, yeah, great player, good hands, blah, 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 all the stuff they were saying. And then they said, he's got to get quicker, though. Like, his skating's not good. And I was like, wow, that's surprising. Like, that doesn't seem like the kind of guy Hextall would take. And then, through all of my Googlings...
His skating's actually pretty good.
Every other report on the guy is, oh yeah, he's a great skater. And watching some of his highlights, it certainly seems like he's quick.
Yeah, no, watching his highlights, he's very quick, very agile. It seems like a great skater. He's got good hands, good vision.
Stick handling is what stands out to me.
Yeah.
I hope he can translate it to the NHL. You don't get away with some of those plays at the pro level.
Yeah, of course.
But I like that he's got the mentality like that. Like we have a lot of guys that don't seem that creative. Like I'm not saying I don't like them. I mean, they're a lot of guys on our team that I like a lot, but they're offensively. I don't see, outside of Drew and Jake off the top of my head, somebody who tries to make those highlight reel plays.
Tries to make a play happen. Yeah, no, I agree with you with that, and hopefully that does translate. I mean, he could end up being a steal. I mean,
certainly.
Maybe some potential Giroux similarities. A guy that was picked pretty late, but in terms of talent and skill, like potential top 10 kind of guy in terms of forwards, taken in the draft.
Yeah, he definitely fell, and that I can't claim to know why, but it's good to get a guy that has a lot of tools at his disposal. Like I said, I don't care if a guy's undersized in today's NHL. So
if he can put it together, and I mean maybe we see him playing. Can he play left?
I think he's right. I watched a post-draft interview with him, and he's probably not going to play center unless he takes a Drew-esque career arc. And
okay,
Drew was drafted as a right wing, but when you're that good, you just get put in the middle.
Sure.
But when they talked to this kid, I think it was actually Panaccio, asked him, how do you feel about playing right? That's probably where you're going to be on this team moving forward. And he said he's done it. He's comfortable with right. We have a lot of
right wings
at right, but he can.
But he's probably not going to make the team for a few years anyway,
right,
so we'll see where it shakes out.
In juniors this upcoming year, and then after that, maybe he'll be a phantom. He'll get here. I hope that he does.
Yeah. Overall, I'm very happy with the way that the first round shaked out for the Flyers. Got a great D prospect, great forward. He might now be our top forward prospect.
Depends on if you still consider Lawton a prospect.
I wasn't factoring him in when I said that, because I think he's going to make the team this year and center the third line.
I like that.
But it'd be nice. But I don't see anyone really in the system that stands out that much in terms of offensive creativity.
Yeah, he as far as forwards go, he's definitely up there already, and he only just got drafted. I mean, there's Nick Cousins, there's Taylor Lear, there's Peter Straka. They're all
and Straka's, I guess, maybe another guy where he's an offensive dynamo kind of guy. So
he played a couple of games for the Flyers, big club this year, and he looked alright.
I would like them to give him a chance this year. Try and make the team. I mean, obviously they're going to have to make some moves.
There's so many wastes of roster spots on our team that it's just tough for any of the guys to get a shot, but could happen. So then after the first round, we sacrificed our second rounder that we got from Timonen to get Konechny, but then proceeded to take 2 goalies in the third, 9th and 29th, respectively, in that round. So the first guy was
Felix Sandstrom.
Right.
I wish it was Sandstorm. I mean, that's what everyone is going to call him. To be fair, it's an awesome nickname to have, but it'd be a great name to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good for a goalie, and I'm sure you could find some way to make it out to be a good goalie nickname, like something about visibility being bad, and then you missed a net. I don't know.
Felix really
terrible.
uses Sandstorm.
Oh God! Please don't accuracy stall.
Oh man. But regarding Sandstrom, everything I've read about him, last year he missed a lot of time injuries. He had mono. But what I've read about him is he tracks the puck well. He's got solid movement. He can improve going post to post, and apparently he covers low very well. High not so much, but he's very athletic. Solid raw talent with the right coaching. I mean, goalies, as you know, are kind of a crapshoot in drafting them. But
yeah, it's what you're bound to get when you draft a goalie that's not highly touted. I mean, every now and then you might get a
Carey
Fleury
Price.
Fleury that goes first overall. Price was a first rounder. Those guys, there's a reasonable expectation that they're going to not only make the NHL but be a starter for a very long time. You wouldn't use a first on them otherwise. But that being said, the majority of goalies, at least this is the way it seems to me. I'm not looking at a list, but there's so many goalies that just come out of nowhere, like Lundqvist, Rinne, like Steve Mason was a top pick. I mean, I don't know where exactly he got drafted. It's escaping me, but he won the Calder. Okay, fine. You have a guy like Carey Price. You have Fleury, who went first overall. I mean, as far as first overall goes, he's a disappointment, but he's still a starter.
Yeah, he's put up solid numbers for them throughout his career. I mean, obviously he's had his playoff falters.
Yeah, there's
for
so
a
many
few
goalies
years
that get picked high that just completely bust that you just never hear about unless you're a fan of the team that drafted him.
Yeah.
And then there's just as many.
Like the best first-round goalie pick in the last few years is without a doubt Carey Price. He's picked 5th overall, I believe it was.
Right.
He's obviously panned out incredibly well, but think of the top goalies in the league right now. Like you said, Lundqvist was not. I think he was a 4th rounder.
A very late round pick.
4th,
6th or 7th, I want to say. Rinne,
is he that late?
Yeah, Rinne
was a
way
5th.
down there.
Where was Quick drafted?
Quick was a 3rd round pick.
3rd rounder.
So there you go.
Tuukka Rask was picked late.
We just took 2 3rd-round goalies. If either one of them are Jonathan Quick in 6 years, then can't do much better than that.
Yeah, I would like to actually look up Jonathan Quick's draft profile and scouting reports and everything, see what they say on him and what he, lacks at. Because
if I had to guess, probably extremely athletic goalie that's very raw.
Okay, so Sandstrom.
Okay, well, great.
Yeah.
Both
Hopefully he pans out that way.
Both of the 3rd rounders we took are 6'2", so that's good size.
Yeah, decent size, not huge.
It's actually probably around average at this point for an NHL goalie, and as the years go on, it'll actually probably creep up to the point where 6'2" is below average. Like, you have people like Enroth. I think he's 6 foot, but anymore, the strategy seems to just be, if you're a goalie, you gotta be huge and just take up the net. I mean, like Ben Bishop does it. But
Enroth is actually 5'10". I just looked it up.
5'10", yeah. So that's
5'10".
That's not enough to be a goalie, unless you're like Hasek and you're just some sort of
ridiculous
dynamic. Athletically speaking.
And then speaking of the second goalie,
Tomek,
he was a North Dakota recruit, so Hextall knows him. He didn't play for him at all. This is going to be his first year there.
Right. Before Hextall was lured here, he had to do what college coaches do, and that's recruit young people. And Tomek was a guy he recruited to the University of North Dakota, so that is interesting. I'm sure he had some sort of input on the pick. I mean, he obviously likes the guy, so
yeah.
Not that I know that Dave Hextall is some sort of authority on goalies, but
yeah, I don't know much about the guy. I read a lot more about Sandstrom than I did Tomek, but can never have enough goalies in the system.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, going into this draft, we had one
Stolers and the other guy. I want to say his name's French. Olay.
Omelette du fromage.
Yes, I think that's his name. Yeah, now we have 3 more, and yeah, because it seems to me, based on everything we've been talking about, with the way that they, you get some top-end draft, like the Caps took Samsonov 22nd or 23rd.
Yeah.
Like, to me,
which I was surprised to see them pick him, but I mean, I hope he had a great year.
To me, that's like, I don't know if I would do it, like, unless it's going to be, like I said, one of these guys who's like seems like a sure thing, and even then it's kind of like you have to have some amount of risk tolerance if you're going to take a goalie top 5. Like, that's a pick that could do wonders for your franchise, and you're gambling that it's going to be that you're going to get this franchise goalie, and it's so hard to predict. Like, it seems to me, my main point is that I don't think scouts have goalies figured out yet.
I don't think
forwards,
they are ever going to
have
them figured out. I think goalies are because, I mean, you're talking about 17, 18-year-old kids, and most goalies don't come up at 19, 20, 21, 22.
Fleury and Mason that did that. And Mason, it almost ruined Mason's career.
Almost derailed his career.
Yeah, he's lucky to be in the league. So, Yeah, I like the third round as the goalie round if I'm gonna do it. Take a guy with some physical tools that looks good. That being said, we also have the 6'6" guy from Russia in the seventh as the third goalie.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, why not?
I mean,
right? Like,
late round, complete so low risk, but I mean, if he turns out to be good, like Pecorino, huge
I literally
late round pick.
I wouldn't mind at all if Hextall came out and said in an interview, I literally looked at the list of goalie prospects in the seventh round, saw a guy who was 6'6" and picked him.
Just sort by height.
Yeah,
that guy.
Yeah, sure. Like, I mean, why not? He could. You never know. Like we've been saying, like these goalies, it seems like it's so completely random almost.
Yeah. So either he pans out to be nothing, which I mean,
yeah, big deal.
Your last pick in the draft that late, not that big a deal. But if he turns out to be even an AHL starter, I mean that's valuable.
Sure.
Or if he gets to be a backup,
someone's got to play on the Phantoms.
Yeah. So I think that's a good pick. And then in between Tomek and Fedotov, you had just a bunch of forwards that were picked.
Yep.
Their fifth pick was Dub McFalls.
Grinding left winger, basically, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think he's a center left wing, power forward kind of guy. Great on the penalty kill, at least with what he's played with so far. Obviously, that can change in the NHL with the ridiculous power plays that you're facing. But if he does make the NHL, he's not going to, with what I've read about him, amount to anything more than a third or a fourth line guy. But I mean, they're valuable guys to have. Like he put up a decent amount of points. He can get into the dirty areas, get the pucks in deep. Lil. I mean, he's good along the boards, and I mean, great PKers. If you have a fourth round guy or a fourth line guy who is solid defensively, okay offensively, but can kind of wreak a little havoc, wear the defense down, but can put up top quality penalty kill minutes, that is an extremely valuable guy to have because his cap hit isn't going to be that high, and he's going to do all of the little things that the team look at the teams that win the Stanley Cup, they have those guys.
Right, they have their fourth line is a threat offensively, not a liability defensively, and usually is full of penalty killers, or at the very least has one or two. So yeah, this wasn't a pick that is, this is like a franchise player we're taking a flyer on. I think what we knew we were getting into here with this pick, it was, let's take a depth forward and hope he hits his ceiling, which is probably a third liner.
Yeah, and I think that's a great pick to have.
Third liners are important. There's no way to build a team full of 12 first liners. There's a cap, so you have to have guys who are going to be cheap that can fill a role. And that seems to be the kind of pick that was. The further we move down this list, the less insight I'm going to personally have about these guys individually. Next we pick the Russian Vorobyov. I'm assuming is how you pronounce that. He's a center. He's 6'2". He's got size. Russians. I'm going to go completely stereotypical here and say maybe he's got some puck skills, and he can pan out to be a middle six.
What I've seen about him,
making this up as I
good two-way player. Solid on face-offs. I mean, who knows if he'll end up playing center or if he'll move to the wing. Not really a great skater, not very agile, but he's got good vision with the puck on his stick, so he can make plays if he's in the right areas. Good hockey sense, and like you said, solid size. He's not going to be, a burner. If he makes the NHL, which who knows if he will, I don't see him being any more than a third or a fourth line guy. But like I said, good defensively, and yeah, I mean, kind of, I guess, similar to Doug McFalls in a way in terms of his upside.
Same height.
Maybe not as much offensive upside, but he should, if he pans out at all, be a serviceable player.
Yeah, I mean, it's all you can really hope for with these mid-round picks anyway. Fifth round took David Kasse, is how you pronounce that, in case anyone's wondering. He's an undersized Czech winger. Again, I don't mind taking the undersized guys. I think if you have a guy who scouted his league and says he's got good hands, go ahead, take him. Goodrow and Howard Johnson are small. He's 5'9", this guy that we're talking about, but what's the worst that could happen? You wasted a fifth.
Yeah, everything I've seen with him, he's a
whenever you're
potential
taking these
draft
guys
steal for a late rounder.
In the mid to late rounds, you take these guys, you just kind of say, you're not going to get a complete player. It's impossible, or else they would have been taken higher. You're going to get somebody who's got something or other that gives them some value, and you hope that they can overcome the rest of it. You don't want to
with
take
everything I've read about this guy, he's a very hardworking player, very gritty guy. He's got good skill, good vision. He could be a playmaker in the league, potentially, if he gets the right coaching. Like, he has all of these physical tools, but the numbers, his stats haven't shown that. But the talent should be there. Who knows if he pans out at all. I believe it was ESPN's hockey analyst, I forget his name, had him actually 30th overall.
Oh, yeah, you know what? I forgot about that. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, this is
and we got him 128.
Sure, it was just one ranking, but there was one ranking that had this guy as a first rounder. The 30th is technically a first round pick, so that's, I mean, he's got to be doing something right. or the guy who made that ranking just
knows absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So, great. Somebody thought very highly of him, and honestly, as far as fifth rounders go, that's more than most can say. Most fifth rounders probably don't get scouted very much at all. So somebody thought very highly of him. Great. You know, throw him in. He's probably going to keep playing in Europe, but if he can even make the Phantoms, organizational depth is huge. Like you said, even if he only ever is a minor leaguer, you still got to have minor leaguers. If you don't, then the people that you care about playing in the AHL, like,
they're not going to develop.
I just want to make this point in case it's not obvious. Like, even if you have career AHLers, like, those guys are good. If you have veteran AHLers that are never going to amount to anything in the NHL, they help you develop your young guys that actually matter.
You can have a team full of 18-year-old prospects all trying to learn the ropes.
Moran is going to be on the Phantoms this year if he doesn't make the NHL, and the more people that he's teammates with that have something of value to say, the better. You're going to talk to your teammates, and it's huge to have minor league depth for this reason. Let them get experience playing with people who are, they've been around, they know the ropes, they know the kind of stuff that's important for young guys to do to basically, as they say, act like a pro, train like one, and the dedication, the effort required, and set a good example. You don't want to have AHLers that are just collecting a paycheck and aren't good for anything. So, big tangent, basically, just to make the point that even if these guys don't make the NHL, it's not. Don't consider it a waste. It's still something. And then 6th rounder Cooper Marody, American center, 6 foot.
I know nothing about him.
Yeah, he
nothing about him. I didn't read a thing on him.
Plays in the USHL. According to this page I'm looking at, is 173 pounds. I don't have much to say. He's a 6th round pick. Probably, I'm sure, like the other guys we've been talking about, they saw something in him, and they're hoping that corresponds to some potential down the road. And then we already talked about the 7th round goalie. So that wraps up the Flyers draft.
And overall, I think it was a pretty solid draft. I mean, stack your organization with some goalie depth, which was much needed. First round was great. Some Flyers on no pun intended on some forwards in the middle rounds that could potentially pan out to at least a bottom 6 guy. I think overall it was a great draft, and I'm very happy with it, considering it was Hextall's first time for us.
Second. Last year was him.
Weird.
He took Sanheim. That was his first pick. It was in Philly. It's like such a good moment to forget. Disappointed you.
I don't know why I thought that.
It doesn't seem like he's been around that long. Maybe it's because we're so used to Holmgren. It's a nice change of pace. Speaking of being used to Holmgren and getting used to Hextall instead, what can you say about the trade this dude made?
He is a magician. I don't know.
Yeah, as Broad Street
I don't know what dirt he has on the Arizona Coyotes GM. I don't know what he knows, but that was an unreal deal that we got out of there.
Yeah, I mean,
unreal.
I don't want to make it out to be trade.
Well, it's not complete trade rate, but
they needed to get to the floor, and that's the way they went about doing it.
Yeah, even getting rid of Grossman and getting any type of return on him is a win. And
it's
we
more,
also
it's less so about what we lost, and both of the things that we lost were of negative value. By the way, Grossman and Pronger were both not just worthless, but they had negative value on the team. It's not even just that. It would be one thing to get rid of both of those and get a seventh back, but we got a guy who's underrated. Let's put it that way. He's bounced around some crappy teams. Has put up good possession numbers relative to his team. If you look at the charts, I think he could make he should make this team. A lot of talk about buying him out. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. I mean, he's got 1 year left on his deal.
Right.
I think you take a flyer on him.
Yeah, just let him play. I mean, it'd be one thing if we were going to use the cap space, but for the first time in a while now, mostly because of this deal we just made, there's space. So if we buy him out to make room for somebody, then so be it. But he's not so bad that you just can't tolerate having him around.
I don't see any forwards that would be in that same price range. We're paying 3.2 mil on the cap to him because the Lightning are paying, I believe it's 1.3 or
1.6 they retained.
1.6
from a weird double trade that happened where the Oilers sent him to them and they flipped him immediately to dump BJ Crombeen. Basically, it was a weird trade that happened with him, but he basically spent an hour as a member of the Lightning. Then went to the Coyotes, where he was their highest scoring forward, was minus $1 billion because everybody was on that team, including Ekman Larsson, who, unless you're an idiot, you consider to be a great defenseman. It's just he's been on shit teams, and I think he's probably not that bad. I'm not going to talk.
Yeah, I don't think he's that bad.
Night, like that's relevant. It's not great, but he's not an all-star. But I think
no.
What the important thing is that I'd like to honestly. I'd start the year with him as the top line left wing and let him sink or swim. We know that with no training camp, Raffl can slot in there admirably at any given time. So I say give the guy a chance to make the team there, and that way you have Raffl doing what he does very well, which is possess the puck, be good defensively. Raffl, I'm a Raffl fan. He's great, and sure he can play as our top line left wing, but he's not. I don't know. You don't want to have. The longer we keep him in that spot, it's kind of keeps getting sadder. I mean,
okay.
I like him a lot, but he's not a first liner. Gagne probably isn't either, but I just hope that.
He's got plenty of skill. I mean, he put up those 8 points in that one game. His shootout numbers are great.
If you watch the highlights from that game, after the fifth point, they were just feeding the puck. And then he tied Gretzky's record with a minute left. I mean, it's a great accomplishment, but who cares?
Yeah, it's one game, but no, I think that's a good point. I didn't consider doing that. I just kind of had Raffl there in my mind, gonna be there. But you're right. You can just slide in if it doesn't pan out. Give him a shot. I'd
like to at least try something else.
Sure.
We know what we're going to get in Raffl, which is somewhere around 25 goals, if I'm being optimistic, and a guy who knows how to play with G and Jake. Great. He didn't start there last year. I think we tried Brayden Schenn, and then we tried
Vinny on there for a little bit, didn't we?
Probably.
And then we tried the move Simmons there, playing on the left, but that didn't work out either.
And then Raffl just plops there, and right away, it's
don't forget we had Vandevelde there for a little bit.
Yeah, for 3 shifts in one game.
That was so funny.
Jesus. Good riddance, Craig Brew. Yeah, he's. I would give him a shot, and again, if it doesn't work, 5-10 games in, it's just not working out. Put him lower in the lineup. Put Raffl there, and Raffl won't miss a beat. He knows how to play with those guys. He's a really smart player, Raffl, and he doesn't need camp to be able to play with those guys at all. We've seen it. So yeah. I would just see what happens. Put him there. Put Gagne there. Top line left. See if.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Like I said, at 3.2, there's no one on the market that you're going to get that potential potential value with at that point. I mean, who's the best left wing on the market? Probably Bolesky from the Ducks.
Justin Williams, if you consider him a dual winger, but he's listed as right. But for some reason, I have this impression of him that he can play both sides. I really like to get Williams, but now that we have Gagne, I feel like that dream is dead. I like Justin Williams. He's getting old.
What do you think he would sign for?
Well, without looking, I know he was getting somewhere in the mid threes as a salary, and I don't think he'll want to take a huge pay cut. He's old, and teams are going to probably be like, "Look, I can't commit to you for 4 years here." I'd like to give him 2 years at the same whatever the hit is he had last year. I would say that again, whatever it is, 3.5, let's say, 2 years of that. I'm not committing more than 2 years for somebody as old as he is. He's early 30s, 33, 34, something like that, but I wouldn't want to...
His cap hit the last few years has been 3.6.
If there's a team that's going to give him a 5-year deal, then see you later. There's no way.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's going to be 33 this year, so I don't... don't want to do that at all.
Until he's 38.
Thankfully, Holmgren is no longer a GM. I think we can throw that out the window.
That's exactly the kind of thing you don't have to worry about anymore. Hextall will not make that kind of mistake.
But on the market besides Bolesky, you've got Drew Stafford. I think he ends up back at the Jets. Martin St. Louis, he's 40 years old. Don't want anything to do with him at all. Who else is on the market?
It's a terrible UFA class. You don't feel bad if you can't think.
Yeah. So considering that, I mean, the potential cap savings to buy out Gagne, I think, is about 2.7 mil.
That's the other side of the coin. Because he's technically under 26, we only have to pay a third of his remaining cap hit or whatever it is. So it makes the buyout very cheap. But again, I would only do it if we needed the space. Like, what are we saving space for? It's not the NFL. It doesn't roll over. If you like unless the organization just hates him. I don't. I think he's a roster.
I think he stays. So, he should stay.
Yeah, I would say keep him. I don't see why not. And all that we barely even touched on just how great it is to not have to deal with the LTIR issue with Pronger anymore.
Agreed.
To not have to deal with scratching Grossman or God forbid playing him. It's just such a weight off everyone's shoulders that's behind us. You know, there's still McDonald, Vinny, and Umberger in terms of contracts that make you sick to your stomach.
Well, let's hope Vinny, by the end of this upcoming week, is no longer a Flyer. He gets his bonus, I believe, on the 2nd, which is Thursday.
The signing bonus thing happens on July 1st, or maybe at the end of July 1st. Whatever it is, he gets a check from Snyder for $2 million, I want to say. And at that point, he shouldn't want to be here. Is basically the rationale. I mean, we might be discussing this in greater depth at a later episode. But basically, it's possible if it's mutually agreed upon between player and organization for a contract to be voided for no penalty, and we hope that happens. Vinny's not going to want to stay here. Hextall is not much different than Berube in terms of what he expects from his centerman, and yeah, it's obviously not working out. Like Vinny could probably go somewhere and get paid next to nothing, and maybe some team would let him play, but it's not here.
I don't foresee him being here.
So,
no, they're not going to buy him out. It's going to be way too expensive to do that.
Maybe after next year, but I mean, I don't like to use buyouts. It's messy when the guy's not under 25 like Gagne is, because then if you're over 26, then you pay 2/3, and not only that, but Vinny's contract is absurd, so it would be very pricey. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully they can get rid of him. If they can get rid of Umberger somehow, I think he's going to get bought out after this year. Personally, I don't. Yeah, I think so. I don't foresee him sticking around too much longer. I mean, I don't see him being above the 4th line this year unless Hextall falls in love with him or Gagne doesn't make the team, and then just because there's not enough forwards, he has to play 3rd line left. But I I hope he's not around for much longer. Or maybe he's a more serviceable player than he was last year. Who knows?
Yeah,
but I'd like to get rid of him in some way within the next couple of years.
That he turns anything around.
No, I agree.
He's just to touch on this quickly, I still don't hate the trade for him.
I don't either.
As time goes on, Columbus is like, we're already at the stage where we're waiting out Umberger's contract to end. Hartnell is still pretty good in terms of power forwards, but he will slow down, and it wasn't going to be this year. We all knew that. I don't like the comparisons, but let's look at what Hartnell produces versus what Umberger produces. Since we traded them straight up, or actually it wasn't, they actually gave us a third or something. And I just don't believe that it's fair to compare them. It was a salary dump, not in the cap hit in the immediate kind of sense. But Hartnell's contract will extend well beyond his useful years. Mark my words. I'm not the pioneer of saying that. Everyone says it, but it's still, keep that in mind. When we're suffering through Umberger during these years of rebuilding, I'd like to remind everyone, it's not as bad as having a guy on your team with whatever Hartnell's cap hit is. I want to say 5.25, just based off of memory, who's 36 and just blows. And at that point, we've got, our prospects are ready. Like, we're trying to contend, and
he's just taking up a spot.
Like, what the hell are you going to do to this guy? It's like, god damn it. So we already have enough of that in McDonald. That's going to happen, by the way. So, best not to have two of them. Hartnell is gone. Kind of sucks right now, but he wouldn't have won us the cup this year. And he's going to decline, and decline hard. And when dust settles and Hartnell's contract is over 5 years from now, maybe then we'll revisit who got the better of that trade. Because, Umberger sucks ass. But,
no one's denying that.
We only have 2 more years of it left, and we're not winning the cup this year, upcoming. The year after that, if all of our defense prospects are Jesus on skates.
All make the NHL, all produce well.
But
Mason continues to play lights out.
Right.
We get a left wing for Gene Jake.
Yeah.
Coots develops offensively.
Everything has to break right for it to be that's happening. So I still don't hate the trade. A lot of people do. I don't. I think it's irrelevant in the immediate, because whatever.
Yeah,
it sucks now,
I don't hate the trade. I don't love the trade. I think it was a necessary trade to make. I was never a big Hartnell fan, to be honest.
Me neither. Always with the untimely penalties, always with the falling down. Like it stopped being cute. It's just.
But it's for charity.
Yeah. If only that were the case. He made it to be for charity after he got made fun of for it. He put up some good numbers a few years. Again, he's a decent power forward. It's just the time had come to get rid of him. And now that the Band-Aid got ripped off, in retrospect, I'm kind of glad he's gone. It's just
I agree with you.
Don't get me wrong. Like as a person, everybody likes Scott Hartnell. I'm talking about the hockey team here.
On the ice,
kind of
I don't miss him.
Welcome, as far as I'm concerned.
I still, I guess the only thing I miss about him on the ice is just his spot on the power play. Shen hasn't developed into that spot as much as I wanted him to last year. He got better, I think, as the year went on. He got more comfortable in that spot. Because prior to that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was playing when he was on the second unit Simmons spot, just in front of the net. I think I don't remember exactly where he was on the second unit, but I think that's where he was.
Yeah, but he's done okay, and
yeah.
you only have to be okay in that spot because everyone else in that unit is killing it. So he takes up that spot, and I'm sure that if teams begin to not respect that he's there, and G can find that passing lane that's like 1.2 puck widths wide to get it to him in the slot,
then he'll shoot the puck directly into the goalie's crest.
Fuck.
No, I think he'll do solid. I have high hopes for Shen this year. Maybe because I just really, really want him to succeed. But we'll see. Who knows? I think he's going to end up, sticking on the team. Draft came and went. I don't see him being traded for future draft picks. I don't see any type of big player deal going down with the Flyers with the current roster. So I think he's got at least one more year here.
Yeah, I figure he's on the team this year. This is another contract year for him.
He's RFA next year, right?
Yes. So hopefully, I mean, if he values his financial security, he'll try really hard
Step
this year
up a little
or
bit.
something. If he has it, if this is his breakout year, that would worry me, to be honest, because then we have to pay him, and like we have to pay Jake, and we have to pay Coots. And we have
Yeah. Imagine if
to pay everybody.
both Coots and Shen. I imagine they're going to end up playing on the line together.
At least to
If they
start, I
both
hope
have
so.
breakout years, we're a little fucked.
Yeah, a little bit, because between him, Jake, and Coots, that's a lot of new contracts to have to give out. You know,
And then, especially if Vinny is still on the team, Umberger's on the team, McDonald will be on the team. Strite might be a cap casualty at that point.
yeah, it might be time to let Strike go. He's old. He'll have 1 year on his deal after this year coming up. Some team. Will
I
probably
don't
want
know
him.
if I'd be too upset about that, to be honest.
Yeah, he would probably. Fetch
I mean,
a decent
I like
return.
him,
If he puts
but-
up another 50 points on the back end, some team will want him. Will fetch a decent return.
Yeah, I could see
He'll
him being
open up a
traded at the
spot for
deadline
one of the
this
kids.
upcoming year if Flyers are not in the race.
Yeah, he'll open up a spot, and we need spots. So Mark Strite might. I don't know. It's wild speculation, but this might be the time, this trade deadline or maybe next draft, that we see him go to make room for somebody, because the older he gets, the more unlikely it's going to be that he can sustain. Like he puts up really good offensive numbers.
Yeah, he does.
He plays on our first power play unit, but still, he puts up good numbers. So his contract, in retrospect, is actually not bad. He's probably a little overpaid, but not by much. And so whoever wants to acquire him,
I think it's pretty fair with what he's making right now. What's he make?
five,
Five and a half?
5.2 ish. You know, he's that's not bad for what he does. Puts up a lot of points, defends decently well for considering the rest of the roster. So
Well, I'm
I don't
still
mind him.
I'm excited for this year. I want to see, with the new coach, new system coming in. I want to see how that goes, how he gels with what we already have. I mean, going into this year, we know G and Jake are going to produce. We know first power play is going to be good. But besides that, I mean, the penalty kill was an atrocity last year.
That's
At least,
gonna get better.
especially at the start, it got a little bit better towards the end of the year. But I think that's going to completely overhaul.
They had ups and downs all year. I don't even know that
Um,
I want to even say that they got better. I think they just probably had some good streaks and then some awful streaks.
Some bad streaks. Yeah.
I think that the only thing that you can really say that happened is that they were better at home. The penalty kill.
Okay.
The road penalty kill was literally something like in the.
I think it was like
70s.
68% or something.
Isn't that bad? I mean, it's absurd how bad.
I remember
it
it
is.
being very, very bad at one point. It might have improved as the year went on, but I remember at one point it being
Yeah, I
ridiculous.
remember sometime in the winter, like it just seemed automatic when we took a penalty that we were getting scored on. It was just hard to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, I blame that for the reason that we missed the playoffs. Just the penalty kill. You can't give up that many power play goals.
The road penalty kill directly led into the road record,
From
which
Mason.
directly led into not making the playoffs, and also Steve
Yeah.
Mason appearing to have a bad win-loss ratio, and it's really not his fault at all. But
But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, we've got Coots, we've got Shen, who I think should both hopefully step up. I think Lawton's going to make the team. I want to see what he can do with a full year in the NHL, see him develop,
I would
see where
like
Gagne
to-
goes.
I would like to retain Van de Velde and White.
Yeah,
Both
so would I.
Restricted. I hope we don't lose them. They're such good fourth liners. I mean, they're not the best in the league, but compared to what we're used to, like
I'm a big
Get-
fan of Ryan White.
get
Big fan.
Ronaldo on the fan.
Van de Velde, I like him, but I'd
fourth
much
line
if I
that
was
can compete.
if I had to pick between White and Van de Velde, I would rather resign White.
Yeah, I mean White's he's got a little bit of a scoring touch, not much, but enough to be an effective fourth liner. He's
Solid on the face-offs.
defensively. Yeah, he does well on the face-offs. Yeah, he's definitely earned himself a new contract.
He's the kind of guy
I
you
just
want
hope
on the
it's here.
fourth line, like we were alluding to
Yeah.
earlier when we were talking about the draft picks.
Yeah, he plays on the edge a little bit, but I didn't notice him taking bad penalties. So
No, he plays how Ronaldo should play,
yeah, that's prudent. That's exactly right. Like,
and I hope Ronaldo does not see a single minute in this upcoming year.
Yeah, I'm just hoping so bad that this coach is like, all right, first order of business, like you can just go home. You being Ronaldo, like you just go to the Phantoms. Buy a house in Lehigh Valley. Like I got news for you. You will not be back. But yeah, as far as fourth liners go, those two guys, along with Belmar, that's the kind of.
I forgot all about him. I forgot all about Belmar. I was thinking about putting like.
Or ice, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I was messing around earlier with the armchair GM, just trying to figure out where to put Gagne, and I did not even think about putting Pebbles anywhere at all.
Well, he'll be.
Well, I mean, he's already signed.
Fourth liner.
Yeah.
So there's not much suspense there. He's signed. He's going to be on the team.
I just forgot about him.
He's a great guy. He's a real.
Well, factoring him in, I don't see them retaining both White and Vandervelde. I don't think there's room for all three of them.
Well, that was
with the current roster makeup.
That three was the best fourth line we iced, in my opinion. So that's why I want to keep them both. And then Vinny and Umberger, for all I care, you can scratch them both. Like hopefully, like we already said, Vinny just voids the contract and he's a non-issue. And if Umberger's a 13th forward, sure he's overpaid, but who fucking cares? Like
sure.
Like I already said, we have the space. Like I said, we're not used to this whole having cap space thing. Like the way
it's weird. I'm not used to it at all.
The way I see it, if you're not at the ceiling, then and you're not being like denied someone you would have gotten otherwise, then
what's the big deal?
There's no big deal, and just like if Umberger's not good enough to skate on the team, then scratch him. And if there's an injury, fine, he can play. But to me, I'd like to ice the best team, not ice the team that is dictated by the cap situation. He just doesn't. I don't see it being worth our time to play him. Vinny, like I said, there's a hope and a prayer that we just agree to part ways, and there's no cap penalty at all. Umberger, yeah, after this year, and there's only 1 year left on his deal, maybe you buy him out. But if you buy him out now, it's a 4-year commitment.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy him out now.
Buyout rules work, so I wouldn't want to do that. 2 years isn't so bad.
So considering, or assuming that they do re-sign, say, White and Vandervelde, how do you, with the current makeup of the team, assume Gagne makes the team, is not bought out, where do you see, I guess, kind of the line shaking out?
Well, speak of the devil, I actually did one of those armchair GM things today. There was a thread about it, and if you check that thread, I posted it. And let me find my team, and I'll tell you exactly what I did.
All right. And you kind of talked about it earlier. I assume you had Gagne at the left wing spot.
Correct. So I have G with Jake and Gagne playing left on that line.
Okay.
Second line, I have Coots, Braden Shen on his right, Matt Reed on his left, and my third line, which I would call a 2B,
okay,
2A, 2B kind of a thing. I have Lawton with Simmons on his right and Raffle on his left, and those.
I think I would like that line.
Yeah, it has a good mix of all the things you want, and Raffle and Simmons may cancel each other out defensively speaking. Like Simmons, he's not a liability, but he's not, he's a scorer. Raffle is a possession guy. He's great on the PK. He knows how to defend, and Lawton is known to be a good two-way center. So I think that as your third line, but if I'm being honest, I would consider it a 2B line, is formidable. Just working with the players I have to work with, and I already said I have Ryan White centering, Vandervelde and Belmar on the fourth, and I like that fourth line. They can score. They might be good for 20 goals combined between the three of them, in like a most optimistic sense. I like that lineup. Now the defense is still bad, but we're getting help there soon. So I won't get into like the entire lineup I did, but that's what I did with the forwards.
So yeah, I actually just went on that post on our flyers and pulled yours up. So just looking at what you have here, I kind of like it. I mean, if Gagne can pair out on that top line, Reed, Coots, and Shen, I think would be okay. Raffle, Lawton, Simmons, I like. And then you have Pebbles, White, and Vandervelde, and then you're scratching Umberger and Vinny.
Yeah, I'm kind of holding out.
Hopefully Vinny's not
there. And Umberger, I already explained, I'm not I don't
Yeah,
care about
that's
scratching.
fine.
And if you notice down at the
Yeah,
bottom, Ronaldo
and you're
is
still sitting at
just in the
4
AHL.
million in space too. So
Yeah.
even with Vinny there.
Yeah, true. So again, it's not even that he has to be gone. When we have the space, and we don't, I technically don't really care if he is scratched or not.
Sure.
But anyway, yeah, the only thing I'm a little worried about is I'm kind of putting a lot of faith in Matt Reed there, playing him top 6. But I didn't want to split up him and Coots. I think he does the same thing to Braden Shen that Rafa will do to Simmons. Matt Reed.
Yeah, no,
Good two-way guy.
I would like to
Shen,
give him a shot there, and if he doesn't produce like last year, or if he's still hampered by his injury and his skating isn't there, then I mean you drop him down. Yeah. I mean I think that's fine. I'd like to give him the opportunity at least, and just looking at the roster, I'm just still worried defensively. Yeah, help's coming like you mentioned, but not
Yeah, I mean the defense is what it is. I don't want to rush any kids. That's the best.
Which is the right move. I mean, like you said before, they're not going to win the cup this year unless some fucking miracle happens.
Yeah, everything has to
so
be right.
No need to rush them. Let them develop. That's fine. We'll see what we have in Medvedev. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, complete question mark there. Who knows what he's going to do?
And if he can do what Streit does, maybe Streit, even if we're in it at the deadline, maybe he's moved.
Yeah, I mean, if we're it could happen so many ways, obviously. But even if we're a bubble team and Streit is slowing down a little bit, maybe it's time to jump ship. Get rid of him, get a pick. Where next year, if the team's improved under the new coach with a slightly better roster, we hope, then we're not going to have a premium pick in a deep draft at that point. So, you really want to make sure you make the picks you have count.
You get fair value.
Maybe we get a few more. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways a GM could look at it. Maybe you look at it like if the draft isn't quite as deep, you get as many picks as possible to increase your chances. Or maybe they say, let's not care that much about picks this year because the odds aren't as
And
good.
just also glancing at your defense, you don't have Del Zotto in there at all? Or are you assuming he doesn't resign, or you just weren't factoring him in?
Yeah, you know what? You're right about that. I forgot. So he would replace one of the two guys in that bottom pair there for sure. Probably Manning, because
put Manning in the AHL.
You like to have a guy that's physical with Del Zotto, so that, they don't balance pair basically. Yeah, you know what? So you're right. What I have there on that thread is wrong, because I would be surprised if we don't retain Del Zotto. But it's not a huge change. It would just be a quick swap on the third pair. I think
if you throw Del Zotto in there, say he gets like 3.5, then he'll still fit under the cap with what you have. So.
Yep, true. And that's with Vinny still on there, Umberger still on there. I saved $850,000 on putting Ronaldo in the minors, but I kind of hope that that's happening regardless.
I'm sure it will. Yeah, I'd be fine with Gudas being on the third pair.
Very proud of that joke, in case you didn't hear it.
No, I did not. Sorry.
I said I'm not going to count my Ronaldos until they're scratched. Like chickens and hatched.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Yeah, I don't think you do. Anyway, so I feel like that might just about do it. I mean, as far as the potential remaining offseason for the Flyers, again, it just boils down to Del Zotto and Gagne. Gagne will know very soon if he's getting bought out. There's a very limited buyout window in which he can actually, get bought out. And if that doesn't happen,
I think the next time we make one of these, I mean, I assume it's going to be past that window and also past Vinny's potential buyout period.
Right. That's
I guess
July
void
1st
period.
And 2nd. So that would be when we would know if he's going to be sticking around. We've heard a few.
So who knows? Next episode we might open it up. I haven't heard anything really.
Well, I just mean like things that almost happened, like with Nashville and. With Florida. Apparently to get Ekblad. Like, I mean, I almost find that too hard to believe that was ever possible, but we didn't wind up doing it. Even if it were possible. But essentially, the team is close to being built. Training camp It's a few months away, so mostly in future episodes we're going to be talking about. We'll probably do more in-depth thing of what we just did now, which is like, okay, here's how I would build the roster in terms of a pairings and lines breakdown. We'll talk
We're gonna
about
have
the
a
coach.
breakdown about the coach,
Right,
and
that'll be
you know
soon.
what system we think he's going to apply here, how we think the players fit. Hopefully, we'll have an entire episode celebrating Vinny LeCavier not being on the team anymore.
That'd be great.
But yeah, I mean, we need a backup goaltender. Like to
Sure.
re-sign Del Zotto, and besides
Definitely.
that, if we keep Gagne, besides Lawton coming up, I don't see the forward shaking up much more.
Yeah, this is pretty much it. I mean, it's a not an exciting free agent class like we already said, so it's
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm
really
fine with it.
hoping for anybody. Like I said, I was kind of hoping for Justin Williams, but now that we have Gagne, and it seems like we'll probably keep him, or at least I would. I feel like there's no more room for Justin Williams.
There's no
now.
spot for him.
Yeah.
No spot.
Or I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't see there being a way because he's not a fourth liner. That guy's a third liner at worst, and our top nine is there's pretty much one opening, assuming Lawton makes the team. And that's
If
where
Lawton
Gagne
doesn't
is
make the
now.
team, then there's potentially a spot for him if you have, say, Shen center the third line or Raffle center the third line if you want to keep Shen on the wing.
Or probably would be Vinny if he's still around. Sadly.
Yeah.
But so much speculation, so little time. So, I think that pretty much does it for this one.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's until next time.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.